Located in southern Kansas, near the western border, lies a small town with a big reputation. This cowboy capital of the world is famous today for its rich history as being a wild frontier town of the Old West. Lawmen, gunfighters, saloon operators, and cowboys occupied this town where booze, women, and gunfights were abundant. Known today as Dodge City, it was once referred to by many as the Wicked Little City for its liberal indulgences. In 1865, there was a great need for more protection on the Santa Fe Trail for both white men and Indians. The Army built Fort Dodge due to the need for this relief. The fort housed military men and remained open as a post for nearly 17 years, until it closed in 1882. Some would say that this city first began when a rancher by the name of Henry J. Sittler built a sod house to the west of the fort in order to oversee his cattle operations. Sittler's house became a well-known stopping point for travelers on the Santa Fe Trail, and many other men began to see a potential for commerce in this region. In 1872, a full city was built by settlers who believed the importance of this location for travelers. Originally, Dodge City was a convenient resting point for the men at Fort Dodge, just 5 miles away. The military men would come to the city to drink alcohol from George M. Hoover, who established the first of many bars inside a tent to accommodate the men. The biggest economic push came when the railroad arrived in the fall of 1882 and found Dodge City ready and waiting for business. Buffalo hides were traded, buildings were established, whiskey was abundant, and the city quickly became the civilian community of Fort Dodge. The railroad brought more travelers, an increased need for accommodations, and an opportunity for Dodge City to become involved in the cattle trade and increase business and prosperity. In the book, Dodge City, the Cowboy Capital, Robert M. Wright tells us dozens of cars a day were loaded with hides and meat, and dozens of carloads of grain, flour, and provisions arrived each day. The streets of Dodge were lined with wagons, bringing in hides and meat and getting supplies from early morning to late at night. As the cattle trade was moving west, Texas Longhorns were forced north along the pass set before them and headed straight for Dodge City, making it known as the queen of the cow towns in Kansas. Other smaller towns could no longer compete, and the city acquired most of the ranchers from the other countries. Thousands of cattle passed annually through the stockyards, and the towns grew tremendously. Its most prosperous years were from 1883 to 1884, as it developed its reputation and settlement. Sittler described the scene saying, "If you stood on the hill above Dodge City, where the traffic as far as you could see, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the Santa Fe Trail." Dodge City became famous because no town could match its reputation as a true frontier settlement of the Old West. It had more professional gunmen working in the town than any other town in the West, and had a fine array of saloons, gambling halls, and brothels, all strategically set up to separate the cowboy from his hard-earned cash. For a short period in 1884, the city also hosted a bullfighting ring, using imported Mexican bullfighters to put on a show with the Longhorns. Dodge City was booming. Life was exciting, opportunities blossomed, and cowboys looked forward to traveling from far to rest their heads in this town. Women and alcohol had become necessities for the wary travelers of Dodge City, and it banked on the desires and needs of these men. Due to the rebellious lifestyle the city offered, chaos and gunfights were routine. Lawmen rose up, trying to crack down on the rules, but many gunfighters continued to act out, and shots were heard on a constant basis. The informal group known as the Dodge City Gang challenged the law enforcement and much of the politics in the community. Their dominating power and the city's previous reputation for corruption led to its nickname as the wickedest city in America. The city prospered until quarantine was made across the plains that eventually reached Dodge City. Since the city mostly catered to Texans traveling with their longhorns, it was at risk for infecting their other cattle with the parasitic tick the longhorns carried with them. In 1885, the city's popularity decreased as many settlers left the area, and by 1886, the gambling saloons, brothels, and other notorious establishments that had built the town's reputation mostly closed. Western movies have used Dodge City in many of its productions. Actors portrayed the real-life characters of many of the cowboys, gunmen, saloon operators, and gamblers from this time. Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday are two of the more well-known faces of Dodge City. can be seen together in the movie Tombstone. This wild town was also portrayed in the American television show Gunsmoke, which was set in Dodge City and popularized the phrase, "Get the hell out of Dodge." In Dodge City, the cowboy capital, Robert M. Wright sums up what made Dodge City so great. In his words, he stated, "Here congregated people from the east, people from the south, people from the north, and people from the west. People of all sorts, sizes, conditions, and nationalities. People of all color, good, bad, and indifferent, congregated here, because it was the big door to so vast a frontier. Some came to Dodge City out of curiosity, others strictly for business. The stockman came because it was a great cattle market. The cowboy came because it was his duty as well as his delight, and here he drew wages and spent them. The hunter came because it was the vast heart of the greatest game country on earth. The freighter came because it was one of the greatest overland freight depots in the United States, and he hauled material and supplies for nearly 400 miles, supplying 3 military posts and all the frontier for the vast South and West. Last but not least, the gambler and the bad man came because of the wealth and excitement, for obscene birds will always gather around a carcass.